There is a prison that millions of people enter voluntarily. No walls, no guards, no locks, and yet most never leave. The strangest part? Many never realize they're inside it. In fact, they spend years defending it, protecting it, even recommending it to other people. Because this prison doesn't feel dangerous. It feels safe, it feels responsible, it feels mature, and that is precisely why it works. The most dangerous traps never announce themselves as traps. They disguise themselves as protection. The question is, what exactly are they protecting you from? The answer is not what most people think. Most people believe they want freedom, but if that were true, far more people would pursue it. Instead, they repeatedly choose something else, something predictable, something familiar, something safe, even when it makes them miserable. Think about that. People remain in jobs they hate, stay in relationships they have already outgrown, continue living lives they secretly know are not their own, not because they enjoy suffering, because suffering becomes surprisingly tolerable when it is familiar, and the human mind has always preferred familiar pain over uncertain possibility. Remember that. It becomes important later, long before you became who you are today, before your responsibilities, before your career, before the identity you've spent years constructing. There was a child learning an invisible lesson, not through words, through reactions. Some behaviors brought approval, others brought tension. Some emotions were welcomed, others were discouraged. Some parts of you were celebrated, others were quietly pushed aside. And without realizing it, a deal was made. If I become what people want, I will be safe. At first, the strategy works. That's what makes it dangerous. Approval feels good. Acceptance feels good. Belonging feels good. There is nothing wrong with wanting these things. The problem begins when they stop being something you enjoy and become something you need. Because the moment approval becomes necessary, freedom becomes expensive. Every decision now carries a hidden question. Not, what do I want? But, what will they think? And those two questions lead to very different lives. One creates a life, the other creates a performance. Imagine a man who spends 20 years becoming the person everyone relies on, the dependable one, the agreeable one, the understanding one. Whenever someone needs help, he says yes. Whenever someone crosses a boundary, he remains silent. Whenever someone asks for more, he gives more. Everyone loves him, or at least that's what he believes. Then one day, something changes. Not dramatically. He simply says, no. One word. No explanation. No apology. No excuse. Just no. And suddenly something strange happens. His co-workers become frustrated. His friends become distant. His family becomes confused. Some even accuse him of changing. But here's the uncomfortable truth. He didn't change. For the first time in 20 years, he stopped performing. And that's when he learns something most people never forget. The people who benefited most from your lack of boundaries are often the first people to resent them. Not because they hate you, because boundaries change access. And some relationships survive only because one person keeps abandoning themselves. At this point, it seems obvious what the problem is. Approval, the need to be liked, the fear of disappointing people, the desire to avoid rejection. But what if that's wrong? What if approval isn't the addiction at all? What if approval is only the symptom? Because if approval were the real problem, being alone would solve it, yet it doesn't. Many people escape controlling relationships, leave toxic environments, distance themselves from judgment, and still feel trapped, still hesitate, still struggle to move. Why? Because something deeper has been operating beneath the surface the entire time. Something approval was helping them avoid, something older, something far more powerful, uncertainty. Think carefully about what approval actually provides. It doesn't just make people feel loved, it makes the future predictable. When people approve of you, you know where you stand, you know the rules, you know what happens next, you know what to expect. And the human mind loves certainty, far more than freedom, far more than growth, far more than truth. Certainty feels safe, even when it is quietly destroying you. Here is a sentence that may change how you see your life. Most people do not fear rejection, they fear uncertainty. Rejection simply happens to be one form of uncertainty. Read that again. Most people do not fear rejection, they fear uncertainty. Suddenly everything begins to look different. The toxic relationship, the dead-end job, the dream you've postponed, the truth you've avoided, the life you've settled for. They all have one thing in common. The future beyond them is unclear, and the human mind will endure astonishing amounts of suffering to avoid uncertainty. Imagine two doors. Behind the first door is a life you dislike. You already know its frustrations, its disappointments, its limitations. Behind the second door is possibility, a better future, a more authentic life, but also uncertainty, no guarantees, no promises, no map. Most people choose the first door, not because it's better, because it's familiar, and that realization should disturb you, because it means comfort and happiness are not the same thing, yet countless people spend their entire lives confusing them. Carl Jung once observed that what we reject does not disappear, it waits. Your honesty waits, your courage waits, your ambition waits, your boundaries wait. Every version of yourself sacrificed in exchange for certainty waits, and eventually, it returns. Not as wisdom, as symptoms, resentment, exhaustion, bitterness, anxiety, a strange feeling that your life no longer belongs to you. Many people believe they are burned out. What they are actually experiencing is the weight of an unlived life. Years spent becoming acceptable instead of becoming real. Years spent choosing certainty over truth. Years spent negotiating with their own potential. And the body always keeps score. If you want to know how much of your life truly belongs to you, look at your last 5 major decisions. How many were made from desire, and how many were made from fear? Fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of uncertainty. Because one of the most uncomfortable truths about adulthood is this: many people are not living their lives. They are managing perceptions, managing expectations, managing reactions, managing everyone except themselves. And eventually they wake up exhausted, not because life is hard, because performing is. And here lies the greatest irony. Approval never actually gives certainty. It only rents it, for a moment. Then it demands a higher price. The more approval you need, the less freedom you have. The less freedom you have, the more approval you need. Until one day you can no longer tell where your personality ends, and other people's expectations begin. That is the real trap. Not that you become controlled, but that eventually you forget there was ever a difference. There comes a moment in some people's lives when they realize they have spent years asking permission to exist. Permission from parents, permission from partners, permission from friends, permission from society, permission from strangers who barely know they exist. And suddenly a question emerges. What would remain if I stopped asking? Not tomorrow, not next year, today. What would remain if approval no longer determined your choices? Who would remain? What would change? What would disappear? Because perhaps freedom is not becoming someone new. Perhaps freedom is simply removing everything that was never you. And perhaps the life you've been searching for has been waiting beneath the performance all along. Waiting beneath the fear, waiting beneath the certainty, waiting for the moment you finally understand something most people never do. The prison was never built from other people's expectations. It was built from your belief that certainty was worth more than freedom. And the moment that belief breaks, the door was never locked. But escaping the prison creates a new problem. Because once uncertainty no longer controls your life, you are forced to answer a question most people spend their entire lives avoiding. What do you actually want?